Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah!
We got it! We got it!
New 52 booklet.
Somebody clip this.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared, and today I'm going to talk about something very interesting, like I always do. So, as you guys know, James Gunn is starting his DC universe, and you know what? I wanted to talk about what I think it could do to succeed, because here's the thing. Do I like Zack Snyder stuff? Yes. Do I like DC stuff that's not by Zack Snyder? Also, yes. So really, ultimately, I just want fun DC content. However, I'm going to bring up, and I'll talk about a little bit in this episode, but there are some things that are happening right now with the DCU that have me a little concerned, which we'll see what happens. But you know what? First, I'm going to start off with a recap of the DCEU. Not the story, the behind-the-scenes stuff. So, in 2013, we got Man of Steel. And it was designed, essentially, when Zack was brought on. Because remember, Zack did not write Man of Steel. He just came in very late to direct it. And essentially, it was Nolan and Goyer. And the idea was that they were going to do for Superman what Nolan did for Batman with the Dark Knight trilogy and give him a more gritty origin story. So that's where you got Zack Snyder coming on to direct it and bring his like unique visual style and such. So then it did well enough. Now this is where it started to get kind of interesting, because WB showed up and said, okay, so Marvel has this whole cinematic universe with the Avengers and stuff, and people seem to like that. It makes billions of dollars. Can you do that? So instead of doing 3 Superman movies, like was supposed to be, they told him, okay, you establish the DCEU. So Zack was like, okay. Now, at first, his original plan, he's been very clear on this. He wanted to have individual solo movies and then lead up to it. But WB said, no, we want you to get there now. So when you look at the handling of the DCEU, the finger really belongs more at Warner Brothers than Zack Snyder when it comes to what happened to it. So you get Batman vs. Superman, which was a fun movie. The director's cut is awesome. I think it would have flowed better if we at least got a Batman movie beforehand, because that Batman movie could explain why Batman is so brutal. We could see the death of Robin, because when you get to Batman versus Superman and you see like this brutal Batman that's like branding people and is kind of down on his, I hesitate to say down on his luck, but you know what I'm trying to say there. And he's like, let's see, what's the right word for this? That he's like, okay, down himself. It would have been an easier transition had we seen what happened to lead him to that. And then you get Ben Affleck's Batman being brutal. And then like he goes through his character arc. And again, Batman vs. Superman was good. It didn't perform it performed great in terms of money. It's just WB all of a sudden started paying attention to what the critics are saying and not what the money was saying. And as we all know, that goes great for movie studios that are designed to make money. So, at the same time, he was filming Batman vs. Superman. And so what happened was, when he was filming Justice League, because what happened was, they film and release Justice League, and then they film and release Batman vs. Superman, and then go straight into Justice League. So then as that's happening, unfortunately, Zack Snyder's daughter committed suicide, which total tragedy. So Zack had to step away from the project, obviously. Now, the thing about it was, all right. The thing about it was he had to step away from the project. Now, WB, being the bastions of morality that they are, decided, okay, we're going to we're going to take this opportunity. Hey, Zack, just stay away. So they essentially fire Zack and then bring in he who must not be named, Haas Beaton, I'll say, so I can use his name. So they brought in Beaton to essentially complete Justice League. Originally, here's the way it worked. Originally, it was supposed to be like, he's just coming on to supervise the visual effects and stuff, just to put the finishing touches, put the polish on the movie, and then release it. So obviously, when we heard that Joss Whedon was coming on, we were like, okay, he did Avengers, and he's friends with Zack. And you know what? All they're doing is like minor stuff. So it's not going to be that bad. So obviously, Justice League comes out, and to say it's a travesty would be a gross understatement. So what happened was then the hashtag started release the Snyder Cut, because it came out that Zack had at least a cut of Justice League that was better. Now, there's debate on how complete the cut was, but the point is he had a version of the movie that was different. So at the same time as this is going on, you have Shazam coming out, which didn't perform as well. And this starts where I think the problem with the DCEU was. So the chief problem with the DCEU, and I'll bring this up later when I get to the DCU, is that after Justice League, their idea was, let's not put in like any of the big characters that people care about, that the mainstream audience knows and cares about. Let's bring in a bunch of D-listers like Shazam. Shazam, maybe B-lister, but the point is he's no Superman, he's no Wonder Woman, he's no Justice Leaguer of this group. So that's the problem. They started focusing on a bunch of D-listers. Then you get Aquaman, which you focus on a main character in this universe, you make $1 billion. Who knew? Granted, Aquaman made a lot of that money from the overseas market, but the point is, you get the $1 billion. And then everyone's like, okay, so you don't need Zack now, because Aquaman made $1 billion. It wasn't necessarily following his plan, even though technically it was. But the point is, so people are like, okay, you don't need Aquaman. So then you get like movies like Birds of Prey and other projects that test my sanity. And then I'm like, why is this getting made when we want to get a Superman movie? Speaking of Superman, then you get to 2020-ish area. And as you guys know, if you've been watching the channel for like a really long time, in the beginning of the partnership with like Nick and Taladia and Jay Heat, we were reacting to, okay, so Black Adam came out. Actually, first, Shazam came out and it flopped because, actually, wait, no. Yeah, Black Adam came out first. So Black Adam came out, and so WB was sold by AT&T to Discovery. And Taladia's here. What's up, dude? So I'm just tapping the whole journey of the DCEU first off.
Okay.
So 2020 happened. And at the beginning of this, we get Black Adam. I think, but actually, Black Adam was 2021, I think. So Black Adam came out. And it ends with a setup of Henry Cavill Superman. And everyone's like, and the rumor was we were going to get a Henry Cavill Superman movie. Everything looked like it was going up and up. They even had Henry Cavill come out and announce he's coming back. That would later bite them in the ass. So, and Taladia and I remember this. We reacted to Henry Cavill's tweet. So, Taladia, recap to the people the feelings of the fan base around the time that Cavill announced his return.
So everyone was so happy that Henry was returning back to play the Man of Steel. And within 2 days.
Yeah, literally within 2 days.
within 2 days.
We get an announcement that first James Gunn is going to take over as the head of DC Studios. At first, we're like, okay, cool. First off, he knows Zack. And second off, I didn't expect this. Then Henry Cavill posts 2 days later a post saying, I just talked to James Gunn. Apparently, I'm not going to come back as Superman. The entire fan base exploded. And I'm like, and then his gaslighting, because at first he's like, oh, I never said it was because he's too old, and then he said because he's not the right age, so that's saying he's too old. And the point is, so then it starts this rigmarole. Then it gets confusing because then he goes on the Inside of You podcast with Rosenberg. And he says, oh, yeah, Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, but not the first DCU movie. And I'm like, the hell does that mean?
I remember that. And I was like thinking, dude, you've actually kind of, confused the audience.
And you never want to confuse the audience, Deladia. Trust me. Marvel has learned this very badly.
Very, very badly, yeah. And the fact that he's confused them by saying, oh, well, Blue Beetle is the first DCU character, but the first DCU project is Creature Commandos or Superman. I'm just like thinking, you've just completely and utterly screwed yourself, right?
Well, the other thing is, and I remember this, I had Gabe Hernandez on my show, and he's like the one of the people from Comical Opinions that they like review comics and stuff. One of the things he says that when Suicide Squad was coming out, Gunn had faced those questions of, is it canon to the first movie? And he goes, it is, but it isn't. And then we're like, he's very non-committal, which I get where he's coming from, but then don't say anything at all. If you want to answer the question, just say, I can't answer that question at this point. Just say that. But anyway, then the Flash comes out and flops. So, okay. Then Blue Beetle comes out and flops again, even though that should not have been made as a movie. That should have been canned the minute DC started realizing, why are we making D-list character movies? Then we get Aquaman, which I felt was pretty good. Aquaman 2. I enjoyed it. So then radio silence while James Gunn formulates his plan. And we're like, okay, it's cool. Then he announced his projects, and we did a stream about this, where one of them was Creature Commandos. And I'm like, I don't know who that is, but okay. Then you got Superman, then Batman Birds of the Prey, then Paradise Lost, blah, 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 blah. The point is we got a bunch of projects. The cracks started to show immediately. Now, first, before we get to how to what they need to do to succeed, I want to talk about the opportunity that DC Studios has, because they have the opportunity to bring a lot of people back in if they properly use the multiverse. Do you agree?
I agree. But what James Gunn wants, James Gunn will get, right? That's the ultimate thing, right? And David Zaslav will be like, okay, what you want, you'll get, right? So he's like a baby out of a pram, basically, right? That's the best way scenario to put it. But since the announcement of, like, some Superman, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and all this stuff, I've kind of had to accept the fact that, we're not going to get Henry back, we're not going to get Gala back, we're not going to get, those, core, actors and actresses from the SnyderVerse to come back and do DC stuff. Not only considering the fact that of their age, but at the same time, it's just, I just don't see Zaslav or anybody else being like, I'm not being a negative Nancy here. I'm just being straight up realistic, right? If you know what I mean, Jared. It's like being more realistic with what James Gunn is going to do compared to saying, oh, you know what, F James Gunn. I don't want to go see. I don't want to see any of his projects, and I don't care about any of his thing. Like, I mean, I'm really interested in what the Woman of Tomorrow is going to look like. Right, that's got me really interested.
And I really, really, really want that Lantern show to do well. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So I have the fantastic opportunity because it looks like he's trying to make it all uniform and all that stuff. So that's cool, and it's a fresh start. Now, here's the first point that I want to make as to how to improve it. Get better suits. Because when we got the preview of the Corn Sweat Superman suit, oh boy, did that go over like a wet fart in church.
Yeah, like how do I explain this? Because the suit design took inspiration from multiple different iterations of Superman,
which is cool.
Which was cool. But when you put the undies back on, I'm just like,
and combine the two, that's when the issue arises. So anyway, then we get the set photos, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, it looks better now. No, it doesn't. But the point is, here's the problem with those suits. You Marvelized and Guardians of the Galaxy-ized Superman. Like gave him like body armor and like a thick leather suit. And here's the problem. In reference to the first picture we saw, the one that like James posted saying, I took this in camera, you know, the one that was arguably AI generated in the background, the one that everyone hated. The problem is, here's the problem with we're going to get another suit in the movie. Then if you knew that it was going to get this reaction, why did you like announce? Why did you release that photo? Why didn't you at least say, hey, wait till you see how I use this? It's really, really, really odd. So I'm like, that's why I don't buy that it's a alternate suit theory. I think that's honestly a cope. So that's just me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a cope as well. I think if I was James Gunn, though, I wouldn't have combined 4 different suits into one. I would have incorporated 2 or 3, right? 2 or 3 different suits ideas. For example, you got the Kingdom Come logo. That's okay.
Arguably not, but okay.
New 52, right? I would have liked that.
Mm-hmm.
And bring back the emblem at the back of the cape. That's fine.
Yeah, I like that. My problem is my problem is I don't like the trunks. And the Kingdom Come logo should not be for Superman that's like starting off. The problem is James Gunn is just doing this for member berries. Look at the DC logo. He goes about embracing the future. The only difference between this and the past logo that you're homaging is that was black and this one's blue. That's it. That's not pointing toward DC's future at all. You could take elements from it and put like the new 52 DC thing and then put the bullet around it. You could combine it. That's one thing. But when you literally just copy and paste it, that's when I have some issues with it. But continuing on, number 2, he puts too much emphasis on nostalgia, and he has to stop that. Like the obvious homages I get you want to homage Chris Reeves, but even Chris Reeves is like, no, we want different takes on the character. And when James Gunn when they say that, oh my gosh, it's gonna be a whole new original take on Superman, and I'm like, then why does it look like every generic take on Superman I've seen? What do you think?
I think I don't know what James Gunn is actually thinking. When he revealed the new logo, I was just like, okay, I get what you're doing, but it's just so reminiscent of the 90s, 80s, and 90s. I'm just like, why couldn't you just do something which is different? Do something like maybe a unique thing where the 2000s and the 2010s combine,
Mhm.
right? That would have been more unique compared to what we've got, right?
You can combine all the different logos, but I'm sorry, just taking one logo and changing its color is not original. It's not, and you can't tell me that points to the future. But anyway, my point is, bringing up the logo and the Superman stuff, is that it's too focused on nostalgia so far, and they need to get away from that. Number
Definitely.
3, he won't do this because he doesn't want competition, but embrace the Elseworlds concept, because what DC can do, see, here's what DC can do here. They can actually use the multiverse properly. What I mean by that is that don't make it a story point. Just say, okay, this is another reality. We're talking about, we're watching the Batman. And if you tell me that the audience is going to get confused and not be able to tell that Matt Reeves' Batman is different than whoever the hell Gunn cast as Batman, I'm sorry, the audience is not that stupid. And treating him like that is not going to work. What do you want to say, Claudia?
I was going to say another thing too is saying, oh, well, we're bringing in, for example, bringing back Amanda Waller, and it's the same person from the original DCU. Is like, is it connected? Is it not connected?
That's the other thing. He's very non-committal in this reboot. It's essentially the new 52 reboot where they said, oh yeah, some stuff is canon, some's not. That worked out great for ya. And that's the problem. It's like, he's like, some parts of Peacemaker are canon and some aren't. Do you really expect the audience to track that? That's the problem. That's the other problem with the DCU that I think is going to be its downfall, is that he's throwing too much at the audience, and then he's expecting all of them, the general audience, not us, the general audience, to track all these differences in the universe, to track all the differences in the shows. And I'm not convinced the audience is going to do.
I think, you know what? Here's what I think what the DCU will struggle with mostly is the continuity stuff. I think that what that will be the downfall of it. I think what their strong points is bringing certain actors back, but just the continuity stuff, it will confuse some of the stuff. Like, for example, John Cena's Peacemaker, they're saying it's not the same. It's the same Peacemaker, except for it's a different suit and a different. The logo's in a different direction.
Well, here's the problem with that. I get that people say, "Oh yeah, the directors work with the same actors all the time," and I'm like, "Okay, here's the difference. That we're not talking about a shared universe where these versions are associated with a specific, where these actors are associated with a specific iteration of the character." Essentially, like, I get that. What Gunn should have honestly done, I would have given him a little more respect had he done the complete reboot and said no one comes back. Because in order to do a proper reboot, no one's allowed to come back. But then I have to watch and look at, he cast even his brother as the biggest miscast he's done so far, Maxwell Lord. And I'm like, no.
That's nepotism.
That is nepotism 110%. And the fun fact is, I don't see his brother in a lot of projects not associated with James Gunn. I see it in one or two, but not a lot.
Not a lot, yeah.
So then that's the overlying issue, is that he's not committed to the reboot. Then 4, when they market it as comic accurate, they have to stick to comic accurate. Like, here's the thing. With the Green Lantern suit, with the Hawkgirl suit, he could have easily avoided that controversy. When the Superman suit came out, the first photo, he also released a picture of the final Green Lantern suit, the final Hawkgirl suit, to show that. Because as far as the people outside of Twitter know, those are the suits.
And fun fact, even the Mr. Terrific suit is also connected to the same branding as Green Lantern and Hawkgirl.
Which that's fine because the Terrific suit looks like Mr. Terrific. So that's why I'm like yeah, go ahead.
Like I was gonna say the jacket, yes, it looks like the comics, but the interior stuff besides the jacket is the same branding as what Hawkgirl is wearing and the same thing as what Green Lantern is wearing. I'm just like thinking, why are they wearing the same branding and why they not got the OG Justice League suits? And it's like, and then I'm just like,
well, on that, here's the thing. I'm a bit of a Green Lantern nerd. And I know for a fact that the ring would never the ring has safeguards in it. There's no way the Guardians would let one of their lanterns work and do the bidding of an Earth corporation. Now, before you say, well, Guy Gardner did do some stuff like that before, and I'm like, that was before it was a Green Lantern. We see the Green Lantern logo on his jacket, so he's obviously a lantern. That's the problem. Is that if he had not been a Green Lantern yet, like if he had been like when Sinestro attacked and like he had Sinestro's ring, because that's what happened. At a certain point, Guy's ring was confiscated, and then he took Sinestro's ring and had a yellow ring. That's like when you see him in Death of Superman, he has like a yellow aura around him. If they had done that, then I would have been like, okay, that actually looks good. And then the bowl cut just looks stupid and horrible, even though he doesn't have the bowl cut anymore. I just want to tell you that right there.
I think that was like not prosthetic. What's the word I'm looking for? They put a wig. Yeah, it wasn't.
No, I think it was real. The other thing that's interesting is that it's been rumored that he's going to do Justice League International. Here's the problem with that. That was the league that lasted for that time period, but that was also the one that got their asses kicked by Doomsday, and everyone said were losers, and that sucked. Now, granted, the book was fun, but the problem is you're not bringing general audience members there to see like Fire and Ice and Booster Gold, when you also had a Justice League that contains Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, let's say. Even there, that's a better lineup because the general audience knows who those people are. That's who your premier team should be. Now, before you say, I'm going to bring this up. Before people say, well, no one knew who the Guardians were. And I'm like, here's the difference. The MCU was in a better financial position. They had the audience trust at that point. DC has never had that. They arguably had it back with the Snyder cut, but then they abandoned that swiftly for some reason. The other option that I want to bring up about how comic accurate is the Ultraman being a clone of Superman, essentially being Bizarro, where we know that there's Taladia. I feel pretty confident in saying the only version of Ultraman that has ever existed is the Earth 3 version. If you had just said it's like, just don't give him a name. Just say he's a clone. If you had just said it essentially indicates Bizarro, that's fine. Because I don't expect Gunn to do like Earth 3 or anything like that. But the minute you start, like the Hawkgirl actress is going, oh, it's like, it's very faithful to the comics. I'm like, where? Because so far, I don't see anything faithful to the comics here.
You know what I'm thinking? What James Gunn is going down? The Red Sun Superman route. Where Lex makes...
But even that, they didn't call him Ultraman. They called him Superior Man.
Yeah. But instead of calling him Superior Man, they called him Ultraman. I'm just like thinking, James, you haven't really read any of the comics. You say you're a comic book reader, and you're an avid reader at that, mind you. Yeah. And you have all this creative team on your team, but why are you getting a villain such as Ultraman and not Ultraman? If you know what I mean, like the name,
just
you got the name
Ultraman. Using Bizarro. That's it. You're done. That's awesome. because that would be actually a fun villain to have for a movie. But when you put it as Ultraman, that is a very specific name. And Gunn knows this. Here's the thing.
Mhm.
Here's my problem with a lot of comic book marketing. When they have to say, oh my gosh, it's very faithful to the comics. That's when I start to get concerned. When you have a creative that doesn't even address it, doesn't even talk about it, say, yeah, I based it off this comic book. We're done. When you don't say, oh yeah, I'm 100% faithful to the comics, that's when I respect the person. Not when they go, look, nerds. I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me.
No, I think what James Gunn needs to do now is stop with the BS talk. I'm saying, oh, you know what, this character was in there. I reckon he'll come up with a BS story, right? In the interviews and whatnot, when it comes down to when the movie does release eventually, right? He'll come up with a BS story when it comes down to Ultraman, and when it comes down to because remember, there's not one villain in this film. I reckon there's 3 villains in this film.
There might be because because of what we like saw in the background of like that picture when they revealed the Superman suit.
Yeah, so you've got like Ultraman, you've got Lex Luthor, and then you got potentially maybe Solaris or Brainiac, right?
Maybe either way. Again, the potential is there, and I gotta be, and I'll be very frank with you guys. And I know Talati is gonna echo this. If it comes out and it's a great Superman movie, I'll be the first to tell you it's awesome. I'll be the first to say, okay, I'm more likely to check this universe out. If it's bad, though, I'm gonna be the first to tell you it's bad, and I'm gonna say this wasn't a good decision. Do you echo that, Taladia?
I would I'm gonna give the trailer a chance, right?
Yeah, exactly. Start with that.
I'm gonna give a trailer a chance. If it blows my socks off, I'm gonna go see the film, right? And if my mate wants to go and see it because he's never seen a DC film before, I'll have to go with him. I've got no choice, right?
He's so uncultured.
Hey, it's not my fault that my friends are nerds, and not nerds, but like they don't really understand it. What's right and what's wrong. But like, yes, I bought the Superman t-shirt, right? Yes, I'll admit that. That's because I needed a new Superman top, right? But
don't apologize for buying a Superman t-shirt. That's fine.
I mean, but a lot of people say, oh well, you're a James Gunn guy now, and
no, all you gotta do is watch any of our streams, and we know you're not a James Gunn cultist.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's like Superman. The Superman movie has to blow my socks off with the trailer. If it shows Brainiac, if it shows Ultraman, and it shows Lex Luthor in a very
the suit looks good
in the trailer,
then I'll say, okay, you know what? They fix a lot of it in post. It looks better. Let's see what they do here, because that could happen. That has happened before. It's just when there's that many folds and it looks like a military suit, I get a little concerned.
I also think as well, we got to take this into consideration, is that this is James Gunn's first DCU movie, right? So if this does well, that's a great thing, because I've got to do reaction videos, so I've got to empathize my reaction, if you know what I mean. So I've got to be like, ooh, do that type of stuff. And
you have to play it up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realize is James Gunn will look at reaction videos. I reckon he will, and put them in a montage or something, right? So
that could be fun.
That would be like something incredible. But what I'll say is, when it comes down to Zack, when it comes down to comparing Zack and what's his name, James Gunn's Superman first trailer, it was I think it's going to be 2 different night and day. I think it'll be a night and day situation, because if you remember Zack Snyder's Man of Steel film, right? It was the Superman flying, right? And that emphasized Superman, right? This, on the other hand, has to show villains to grasp the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Do you agree with me on that, Jared? That he needs to show the villains in the first trailer?
I think it needs to hint at them. I don't think it necessarily has to show them. It just has to hint at them. And who knows? Again, if this works out well, there are ways that they can do this. Like if they show like if they show the super villains are like if they like point to hey Rudy Jones and all that, that could be actually really cool. But the last point I want to make is DC really needs, I mean, James Gunn really needs to focus on establishing your main players first. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the characters people know about first. And then you can go do obscure characters. In other words, essentially going to using the MCU thing of you have to establish why the audience should care about these characters first. And then you can bring in like obscure characters because you have to bring in audience trust. Once you bring in audience trust and they're like, okay, if a DC Studios movie comes out, it's going to be good, like with the MCU, then you know what? Then I would say, okay, you're pretty good. I think you're in good spots, like do a Nightwing movie, do like a Creature Commandos movie or something like that.
But you also got to remember James Gunn is also saying that the gaming is also going to be a part of DCU.
Yeah, and then he goes, no, not the gaming. And then he goes, yeah, the game. I'm like, make up your mind.
Your mind. And now it's like, okay, if it's going to be a part of DCU gaming wise, you have to have top tier characters. You've got to have Wonder Woman. You've got to have the Superman. You've got to have the Batmans. You've got to have the Justice League video games, Green Lantern video games, Flash video games. You've got to have those IPs out there and be a part of your universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have those IPs out there, you're gonna struggle, and you're gonna struggle hard when it comes down to gaining people to play these games. How do I know this? Because Marvel did the exact same thing when they connected the Marvel, they kind of connected the gaming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It struggled,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yeah, when
stopped
they
it.
had tie-in games, yeah.
Yeah, when they had tie-in games, and it foreshadowed them to say, look, we're not going to do that anymore, right? James Gunn is a person that plays video games, yes, and he has knowledge about the video game industry, yes, but people have been asking for a Superman game for years.
And a Superman game not connected to anything like that, essentially.
Yeah, not connected to anything, right? But the way it's looking and the people I've spoken to, it's like potentially might get the Wonder Woman game connected to the DCU. We might get the Superman game might be connected to the DCU, and I'm just like thinking, if
The
that
Wonder Woman
happens-
game, I don't think is going to be connected because they would have to change like the voice actor. Because remember, Gunn said that the same actor, that the actors who play him in live action will also play him in the games and the shows. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of congratulatory. That's cool. And the other thing that I am going to give James Gunn credit for, I said I found out that this week. So they wrapped production, they wrapped shooting, and Gunn said he likes to give the VFX artists a year to work on the movie so he's not overworking them. You get points in my mind. You get a little bit of respect because VFX artists are abused in the film industry. So, you know, if you're saying I'm making a conscious effort, yes, it's going to take longer to do the VFX, but just give them their time. It'll look good, and they won't be like tired and stuff and like really like downbeat. That's great, dude. You are helping me. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave this episode. That this was a really good one. And drop down below what you think the DCU needs to do in order to succeed. Because to be clear again, even though Talati and I like Zack Snyder's DC universe, we also want this to succeed because we're also DC fans.
First and foremost, yeah.
Yeah. I was a fan of DC movies before, of DC comics before I was a Zack Snyder fan. So I want the DC brand to succeed because you know what? I've said this before. DC should be as iconic, if not more, than Marvel. Because in my mind, they have the better characters than Marvel. I'm just going to tell you that. Fight me in the comments. That's it. DC is the better company, but the problem is they keep being chopped at the knees by Warner Brothers, as I've explained in the beginning of this episode. But regardless, I think it's a good place to conclude this discussion. So, Taladia, where can we find you, and what have you got coming out on your channel? Bear in mind, this is coming out on Friday.
Friday, I know. Yeah, so you guys can check me out on Twitter at @TaladiaPlays_, and if you want to check me on YouTube, it's at TaladiaPlays, where what I've got coming up on my channel is this Sunday. Myself and Jared are going to be reacting to Batman Cape Crusader episode 4. We'll be reacting to that, and we'll have a discussion after that. And then next Wednesday will be Snyder Fans Read Comics. And also, if you're watching Friday, just a reminder that my reaction to Marvel Rivals Gamescom trailer has actually been released, so make sure you guys do check that out on my YouTube page. And also, I will be doing a collab with Jay Heat today, where we discuss Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So it'll be a fun time nonetheless. And I will be on Jared's channel to talk about Logan. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I love Logan. That's such a great movie. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zois and Max are bad for life.